All you can eat buffet employees, what is the most disgusting display of gluttony you have witnessed? Never directly witnessed, but when our local China buffet first opened it was a simple all you can eat. Not 2 weeks later there was a big sign that said 2 hours time limit max. Where I live we get loads of Chinese tourists. They come and fill their plates with mounds of food, usually seafood, and not even eat half of what they took. Then we have to throw the rest away. It was a moonless night, dark as pitch, when out of the mist came a beast more stomach than man. He ate all our shrimp and 2 plastic lobsters. He was no man. He was a remorseless eating machine. When I was staying in a travel tavern a few years ago, a guy came to the breakfast buffet with his own big plate to get more food. The staff clearly knew he was doing it. Apparently the guy lived there and did it daily. The worst I think that I ever saw was a couple filling up 2 tables with more than 5 plates, filled up with food, in the freaking breakfast, like 9:30 AM, and never ate even 30% of it. What happened next was even more stupid. They picked up their filled dishes and went to the surrounding tables to see if anyone wanted any food that was in it. I was at a Golden Corral about 30 miles south of Dallas TX when I was in HS. This dude looking like Large Marge's brother grabbed a chair and pulled it up to a buffet line. I reached over to get some pizza and this dude told me I can't have it and that it's all his. He seriously freaked out because I grabbed a couple slices. What surprised me even more was the employees didn't even react to the guy sitting there while patrons had to walk around him to get food. Probably the worst was when I went to Golden Corral that had just opened in my town with my family. A woman on a scooter. She had to be at least 600 pounds. Was going around to each section and just piling the food onto about 3 plates. If you know Golden Corral, the baked potatoes are typically sitting near the Mexican nacho stuff. As I picked up the tongs to grab a potato, she zoomed right past me, almost smashing me against the counter, and on all 3 plates, she continuously scooped nacho cheese out and piled it on top of her food. It was all pot roast, steak, pizza, etc., including those butter rolls you get there, all covered in nacho cheese. Don't get me wrong, nacho cheese is a magical thing, but, whoa. Embassy Suites complimentary breakfast. Woman comes downstairs and with the towels from her room, takes the sterno tray of bacon, and walks back to her room. 2 adults piling jelly over their roast meal at a theme park buffet, then proceeding to stick their heads under the ice cream machine and to top it off, scraping their scraps into various different pot plants. Not an employee, but I live in China. Just Google Chinese buffet and go to videos. It is ridiculous. I've seen it firsthand. People will literally shove you out of the way and scoop up food with their bare hands or use their plate as a shovel. Then they won't even eat the stuff at their table. Not so much a disgusting display of gluttony, more of just a disgusting display. I was at an AYCEB and tucking into my meal. I was looking over at the food as I was getting ready for round 2. There was another customer up there filling his plate. Long story short, the guy had too much food on there and some items fell on the floor. Instead of leaving it or even letting a member of staff know, he put his plate down, bent down and picked up the items and put them back in the buffet for someone else to get and eat. Safe to say, round 2 did not happen that day. I'm not an employee, and I've long since vastly improved my diet, but when I was 20, I encountered my first parent unsupervised breakfast buffet at a nice hotel. I loved bacon and had never been allowed more than 3-4 pieces at once, so I loaded my plate with over 60 pieces of bacon. I think it was 63. I proceeded to eat it all. About 2 hours later, the salt hit me in full. My stomach hurt the rest of the day. And even guzzling water 4 hours didn't have the worst dehydration hangover I've ever had. Beyond any drinking morning after. Never again. Oh man. Never again. I was the guest in this story and not my proudest moment. This happened like 20 years ago, but it is still fresh in my mind like yesterday. A good friend of mine just received like his annual salary as bonus for outstanding performance in his sales job. He had a 6-figure salary. To celebrate, he took like 20 of his close friends to a local Chinese restaurant. This restaurant operated unlimited menu system. It is not a buffet. They charge per head and you can order unlimited item on the menu. There's 20 of us, so we split into 2 table of 10s. Someone suggested that we just simple order one of each item on the menu and see which table finished all the food the fastest. Food came and gone. We ate, laughed and competed. It was all good. 2 hours later, it became a marathon. We were struggling and people were dropping off like flies. I had to go to the toilet. I stumped across my friend, the host, who didn't make it to the toilet in time. He was puking right outside the toilet, into a potted plant. What's worse is, he was puking out whole shrimps and big pieces of beef unchewed. Yeah, he was still talking about that night 20 years on. I am not an employee, but I shall regale you with the story of the pissed off Asian man who owned one. To set the scene, I was out with 2 of my friends. There is me, Sarah 86, at the time a 380 pounds man of hunger. With me were Pillsbury, who was 420ish lbs, and Shark. Shark looked like 2 of me. We were planning a devious, dangerous heist. Our target, China Garden Buffet. We walk into the establishment looking casual. The staff has no idea what hell they are in for. It is 2 PM. The swap from lunch to dinner is at 4:30. The 3 of us have no plans to leave by then. Instead we get our first helping. Heaping plates filled with enough food to make an Ethiopian cry at what was about to happen to it. We eat. We get our second plates. We eat. I claim full first. Pills and Shark get another set. And another. And a 5th. By the time they finish their 6th plates, Pills claims to be full. Shark gets a 7th. I go get my 3rd now. And thus does the robbery begin. We traded off. Someone would stop eating because they'd had enough. And the other 2 would take so long that the first person ended up wanting more. We were there until 5 PM. Finally this old Asian man comes out. His face a mask of anger. To this day his words ring in my soul. More than at all you can eat. Not eat all you can. Get out. And thus we were forced to depart the bountiful land of China Garden. I realize that Russian holiday people will just take plates full of food and leave half full plates lying to rot. Probably to show off their wealth. Worked at a place. So many stories. The one that stood out for me were the 2 kids who decided it would be a great idea to make huge castles out of mashed potato directly on the table while their parents looked on. I was at an Asian buffet where they kept the sweet and sour sauce in a hot well. In the booth next me I hear one old lady say to the other, "Have you tried this sweet and sour soup?" Lo and behold this woman is eating a bowl of sweet and sour sauce with a spoon. Golden Corral employer here, and I believe I've told this story before. Once this big lady started eating her pants on her way to the bathroom. It fell down her legs through her shorts onto the floor in front of the dessert bar. She cleaned herself up and went back to the table and kept eating. I was walking past a bunch of workers standing by the bar and saw something on the floor. I asked the manager, "Is that caramel?" He answered, "No, Cam 890. That's it." Not an employee, but I went to a place called Pizza Ranch. It was just opening for lunch, and after being seated I walked up to get a couple slices of pizza and 2 fat women rushed up to the counter and grabbed all 6 pizza trays that had just been put out. They then piled on all the chicken in the heating tray, while those 2 fat itches ate their food. The rest of us, about 30 people, had to wait another 25 minutes for something to eat ourselves. Stupid hogs ended up leaving half of the food on the table after they gorged themselves. I love this question and hope it has responses. My response is not quite there, but one time in Austin, TX, I went to a Pocky Joe's barbecue maybe for the first time, and it was great. But I saw this enormous man devouring an equally enormous mound of barbecued brisket and sides with vigor and enthusiasm. I mean like $50 of meat. I had spent about $12 including a drink, and that's a big meal for a regular guy like me. And I thought, okay, I'm in the right place. And this was the one on Palmer Lane. It's not that great, but it's pretty good. I wrote as much in my Yelp review, and the owner designee or whoever replied and said, "Thank you. We aim to serve all our customers." Hee-haw. The restaurant I work at isn't all you can eat by default, but we do have a breakfast buffet on Sunday mornings I'm always there for. Food taken is meant to be eaten on site only, but we have had numerous cases of people helping themselves to ridiculous amounts and putting it into a container or bag to take home. We only get so much stock on Sundays, and assholes like them have been responsible for us running out early, causing later customers to miss out. And at the risk of being downvoted for being intolerant, it's always either Asian people or ridiculously overweight people. I seriously have never seen anyone who doesn't fit either description pull this kind of crap in the few years I've been working there now. Fat woman walking with a cane came and grabbed about 6 handfuls of orange chicken. She didn't use the serving spoons. My friend's brother would pack 2 bread rolls into his cheeks as he was leaving to eat later, like a buffet ninja chipmunk. Not an employee, just a guy who likes crab legs. Went to get some when I saw they refilled it, and some other guy literally took all of them on 2 plates in front of me even after I told him there's other people. I wish I would have stopped him. MRS Simpson. What did you and your husband do after you were ejected from the restaurant? We pretty much went straight home. MRS Simpson. You're under oath. We drove around until 3 AM looking for another all-you-can-eat fish restaurant. And when you couldn't find one, we went fishing. Not a buffet employee, but once when I was an EMT, I was working a high school football game with an older paramedic, Leroy. We got into the truck and he asked to stop at the grocery store to pick up some dinner. I thought to myself, dude, we're only going to be on shift for like 3 hours, can you not wait? But I didn't say anything and drove to his store and parked, and he went it. He came out in 20 minutes or so carrying several bags. He had bought a whole rotisserie chicken, large Chinese food meal from the hot bar, like bourbon chicken with rice and egg rolls, a sushi meal, a box of cookies, a 2-liter of Diet Coke. It took him a good 45 minutes, but he finished every single bite. He is a morbidly obese man who is also a furry. Actual buffet worker here. This is actually not funny, but here goes. It was a couple. She was probably 500 pounds and wheelchair bound. He wasn't that much lighter, but walked only via using her wheelchair like a walker. They were put at a table that holds 2 chairs on each side. They had the wheelchair on one side, 1 chair on the other. They were slow getting food back to the table, but they each brought 2 mounting plates, like layer after layer. Not trying to be rude, but they were each so large, they really couldn't lean in over the plate. Food had a large journey to make from plate to mouth, and things like rice and such were falling off. Yes, they were getting food on themselves. The table next to them demanded to be moved as they were disgusted by the mess. Plus their heavy breathing. It was getting late, so we just didn't seat anyone else next to them. There is a casino buffet by my house. Every so often they have a coupon to get gamblers into the casino where they offer $5 admission on Friday crab leg night. Normal price is around $21. I've walked in there before and seen lines that, no joke, honest to God, 4 hours wait to get into the buffet. Now, they typically have crab legs on Tuesdays as well, and while you see your typical displays of gluttony, think chain smoking overweight casino crowd, the worst part is the opportunity cost. If one made minimum wage, it would make more sense to work their minimum wage job and go on Tuesday night instead of waiting 4+ hours in line for $5 all-you-can-eat crab legs. Never made sense to me. But then again, this is the casino crowd we're talking about. On a hilarious note, my mom is an Emerald card holder at the casino, which means we are allowed to bypass a buffet line. Well, she met me there for dinner, and just to spite everyone I asked to go to the buffet. People were ducking pissed when we got to bypass the entire 4 hours line and be seated immediately. They reserve a table for Emerald members. I saw someone get a huge bowl of chocolate pudding, then ladle it into a Ziploc bag that they carried under their coat. Later they cut a corner off the Ziploc bag and slowly squeezed the pudding into their mouth. Sort of like a hamster drinking from a water bottle. And that person was me. I sat next to a family, mother, father and 2 sons. Not fat, which seemed normal at first. So after 3 plates of food, one of the sons stopped eating and told his parents that he was full. The mother started shouting at the child that she will never bring him to another restaurant ever again if he only eats that little. It wasn't little. So the child starts eating again and forced himself eating a little more. So after another plate, he said again that he could not go further. His mother was still pissed and told him to at least eat one more plate with desserts and it. So he gets himself a dessert and was barely done with it and boom. He throws up like a waterfall, puking all over the table and starts crying. His parents and the other child didn't say nor do anything. So I ran to a waiter to get some napkins. Later, the mother started to address reproaches to his child and I was like WTF. I stopped eating since it was just disgusting how people can act like itbags if there is an all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, the smell didn't help either. Later, the mother started arguing with the owner and said that his food was expired and bad. The owner tried to be reasonable but got furious in the end and demanded the family to pay the bill and duck off.